Hey guys, Prometheus back here yet again with another episode of Risk, Reward, and Fire. This time we're doing altcoin rapid fire. You have 10 to 15 minutes to get a nice cook in for you guys. With that being said, we're just going to go through them all. We're going to do it super fast, but before we do that, you need to like, subscribe, comment, repost, follow me on X, do the whole deal. You guys get the point. All right, let's do it. We'll leave majors out of it, all right? How about that? Pepe obviously coming back down into its lows. We've been discussing this for quite some time. There's a high time frame compression that's forming. You have a daily divergence on RSI with it looking to uninvert here and curl back to the upside. Obviously, this has been a very high time frame compression. Bullish chart. Obviously, momentum and risk is to the upside now at this point. If you were looking to structure a trade, you could look to structure something along these lines, kind of set it somewhere below this low, just in case we do get a broader pullback, and then ultimately target range highs. Your TP1 should be the supply region up here at 14 cents, and then above that, you can start to set TPs along the way. So it's going to be a risk reward of 2 RR. Next one, guys, we're going down the list. We're going to be quick today. I told you this is going to be rapid fire. We're going to be quick. I thought this would be a fun idea for you. I said we're leaving majors alone. We're going to leave majors alone. DOGE is looking good. Obviously, cyclical structure off the lows, very similar to Pepe. A little bit more bullish structure, in my opinion, actually, with this high time frame, higher high and higher low setup ensuing. RSI is looking to hold above the 50 level. We bounce nicely off this ascending trend line, here for DOGE. That is, am I looking for longs here at this current juncture in the market? I am not. I'm being a little bit patient, but it is difficult to be patient, especially when you're seeing up only mode currently in with Bitcoin. So if I were to, look at DOGE, what would be some higher time frame targets here for DOGE? If you guys know me and you know how I like to trade, I like to play it from supply region to supply region. You obviously have one said supply region here. You then have another supply region right here. So these are going to be your two areas to watch for. Again, Max and I have the bet that does DOGE make a new all-time high? It's to be determined. Either way, I don't lose, so I'm fine with it regardless. I'm obviously taking the under, the fact that DOGE won't make new all-time highs. Excuse me if you guys weren't informed of the bet. So DOGE here, looking fantastic. Have spot exposure with DOGE. Again, like I said, holding the 50 level nicely. It's in confluence with kind of what we saw leading up into this previous leg up. If you look back here from a structural standpoint, let me bust out the brush, right? We came up, into our upper boundaries of the RSI, similar to what we had. You then inverted back down. And if you look at the structure, this is very similar right here to what we're seeing right here. Could you see it go sideways here, compress a little bit more, and then ultimately we're going to be targeting higher. DOGE is looking fantastic, very similar to XRP, compressing. A lot of these altcoins are just compressing on the higher time frame. Like they're just have come up off their lows, obviously, with the move that we had down from Bitcoin down to 108. Obviously, altcoins are going to take a little bit longer to kind of have that catch-up trade to the upside. XRP is looking very good here. I've been discussing this in the Discord that I am fishing for longs. This is a high time frame accumulation. Look at that accumulation. Does it look similar to something? It does. Looks very similar. Compressing. RSI is now curling back to the upside. Would I want to enter longs here? You are pressing up into a supply region here, locally speaking. You got to kind of be mindful of that here with XRP. Just kind of being patient, right? I'm not like jumping into longs here at this current juncture within the market. If we are presented with a pullback and buying opportunity, I will be looking to do so, but riding spot conviction into Q4. Let's look at Hyperliquid now, guys. I told you guys about the double-edged sword, I think, last week in regards to Hyperliquid when it comes to AVNT, Hyperliquid, Aster. Everybody's bulled up on Aster. Hyperliquid's a dead chain, yada, 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 yada. I marked out the levels here for you guys. I said if you get back down in a 35 to 32, that's a no-brainer risk to return RR trade. But we did get a sweep of said low, and you did not come as deep as I thought you were going to come. Hyperliquid's still one of the top dogs in the space. one of the largest revenue generating protocols in literally the entirety of crypto. More volume is done on Hyperliquid than almost any other, any other protocols. So, going to continue to be bullish on this really nice sweep of this low. Our size looking very similar to Doge. This is no longer a naked low. You swept said liquidity. So you should be off to the races. If I look at the high time frame for Hyperliquid, the log 261 or log 1618 with linear 2618 confluence up there between 65.6 and 69 would be a very nice region to be targeting for Hyperliquid here heading into Q4. Per alongside that, obviously got the announcement that you have the Hyper NFTs. So they're going to continue to utilize, or the Hyperliquid Foundation, is going to continue to utilize Per as a key piece within the ecosystem. So if it's going to play a role in the ecosystem, then that they're going to continue to shill it. Obviously, this has got some supply to work through. It makes sense where we rejected where we did between 22 to 24 cents. And this chart has been acting a little sticky ever since. It is kind of slowly grinding up into said price action. Do I want to acquire Per down here or right here, or do I want to acquire it a little bit lower? Again, I'm kind of being greedy with some of my entries here on leverage because it's all about precision. That's the name of the game. So I'd be looking for 18.2 to 19.1 cents. That is the supply region, then flipped into support. I would expect some form of retest here coming into potentially over the next few weeks. Kita guys coming back down into our high time frame, demand region. Like this has got to be it for Kita. It cannot give much more to the downside. Let me actually get you the right chart because I've been charting on the wrong chart. Boom, 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 boom. I believe this is it. I believe that's it. That is not it. One sec. I said we were going to be rapid fire, and here I am fumbling the bag, guys. What is going on? Boom. This should be it. Voila. Never mind. Just forget it, guys. I'm filming the bag. It's got to be rapid fire. It's got to be quick. Key to coming back down in a high time frame demand region. Everybody's panicking. Everybody's screaming. Everybody's fudding. Spot conviction, not worried about it. I mean, there are some levels that you have to be mindful of, but the team continues to cook and they continue to execute, and people are just impatient in this market, and it's become more and more and more apparent, guys. The rips become shorter, the sells become faster, the rotations become hotter, and the names and the market caps become smaller over time. So we're going to, in my opinion, just get this rotational effect out of Kita. We're getting this rotational effect out of Kita that's in dynamics with where the current market is at in regards to how liquidity dynamics are behaving. High time frame, very, very bullish on this. It still fits into my thesis regardless. AVNT, another name that's kind of had a little bit of its wash. Obviously, the distributive effects make sense. You are now putting in some really nice structural lows here back down within this demand region. RSI looking primed here on the H4. What could I target? What would I expect to target next? Between the 2.272 and 2.618 would be a very, very nice region to be targeting here for AVNT. Locally speaking, that is where I would expect for us to come up into next, as long as this continues to hold and act as an accumulation, which I do expect it to do. Until then, higher time frame. Again, where am I going to be targeting for AVNT? If you do look at this as one high time frame, higher time frame range, pull up into our range highs. If you want to take the wick, we can take the wick. Why not? Into the range lows, you are then going to be targeting these next levels. So $3.64 and then $4.69. Look at that at the 2.272. What else? Chainlink looking fantastic, guys. Chainlink's looking very, very, very good. I had given you guys the level, and look at that. She held beautifully. Chainlink's looking pretty primed, pretty primed up here, and looking for continuation higher, especially if we look at it on the weekly, guys. Like, come on, this chart looks beautiful. Cyclical, bearish, bearish bottom there. And then ever since then, we've just been putting in this really nice structure. What am I targeting for Kita? For Kita, for Chainlink, excuse me, dial in 1.618 here at 41, right? Let's take it from the wicks. Come on, guys, what are we doing? 43.652. So Chainlink's looking very good here. All in all, things are looking primed, guys. Things look primed for higher. Let's talk about Stable. We touched on this. This is one of the newer names to come out in the Binance ecosystem. Obviously, this is a stablecoin play, i.e., the name Stable. Look at the 4-hour. Look at the 4-hour RSI. Excuse me. Where could we expect it to come into? You are now expecting potentially this demand region because we did lose the structural lows here at 31 cents. There was some FUD that came back down or came in through the timeline. I love to buy FUD, guys. I love to buy the blood in the streets because that presents great asymmetric risk opportunity. When everybody's freaking out, that's a good time to buy. When everybody's euphoric and we're in massive expansionary mode higher, that's generally a good time to sell. So flip the script on everybody. You guys get the gist. You guys get the deal. Bankers looking very good here. Again, putting in a high time frame structural low. And you do have this daily divergence that is looking to be forming here. I would like us to break back above this ascending trend line off of the lows pre Coinbase listing announcement. Obviously, still very bullish. This is a fantastic community. This also has a very, very, very big part to play in the Base ecosystem, especially with the Base app ensuing. Could expect something along those lines. Flip this ascending trend line here, coinciding with the daily bullish divergence, would make sense to me that this chart is worth a really, really good buying opportunity here. And validation is going to be if we do break below 38 cents. You do need to be holding 38 cents, in my opinion, to remain intact. You do need to be holding said level. Now, what else should we be touching on? Pangu, another name that is just looking like this huge kind of like bull flag pattern, right? You came back down, and could this be turning into some form of SFP here locally speaking? Before you do get expansion higher, there is an opportunity for that, with this being or PO3, not SFP, excuse me. You could be looking at this to be expansion alongside the compression that we're seeing here on the higher time frame. But a lot of these charts are leading me to believe that there's probably going to be further sideways price action than heading into, obviously, over the next few weeks potentially. That will give the better or the best setups, the most precise timing setups, for altcoins in general. So you guys kind of get the gist. I've touched on a lot of names thus far. We can continue to go down the list if you guys want. Let me bust out the broader crypto market list, and we will dive into a few more names here before we do wrap things up. So Monero is another name that's very interesting to me. Obviously, the privacy sector has kind of been popping off with Zcash across the board. Let's look at Zcash. Why not? This has been a name that has just been going nuts. Look at this weekly candle. This is insane, by the way. Shout out to one of our Discord members, Barry, for calling this out super early. Was very, very, very early to this trade and this thesis. I think the average that Barry had was in mid-20s. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, Barry. But, insane weekly candle. Obviously, looking at the RSI, it's coming up into 97, so getting a little bit overheated here. But if we're looking at the broader privacy sector, it makes sense that probably Monero is going to be another beneficiary of the privacy sector kind of popping off as we do enter into Q4. It has been a narrative that hasn't necessarily gotten a ton of noise or attention really for the majority of this cycle thus far. Obviously Monero is one, but just the privacy sector in general. So that could be a potential narrative in Q4 that does very, very well. Monero is looking very good. Very similar structure, guys. Just this like bull flag, bull pennant structure that we're kind of putting in, down here at these lows, right? This just looks like primed for higher. It makes sense that this does see some appreciation across the board. Bonk is looking pretty decent here. This is pretty discounted at this point. This looks like a high time frame bullish divergence that we're putting in here. Would expect some rather nice appreciation across the board from bonk and have a decent catch-up trade. Just looking at this as some form of structural higher low across the board, right? Do one of these, why not? Just higher time frame megaphone pattern, compression. Obviously, you rinsed out a lot of the buyers here off the bonk fun meta. So really the list goes on and on across the board, guys. That was rapid fire. We're going to be quick today, and I told you we're going to be quick. So with that being said, we're going to wrap things up here. This is Prometheus out.